And I don't have to be a scientist to say that if the FDA says in 2006 that a gene therapy jab is going to cause cancer, and then it defines gene therapy as exactly what the mRNA vaccines are, that when you get the cancer, they probably knew it was going to happen. Cancer's exploding. It's absolutely
By
out
the
of
way,
control.
that's mainstream news. 77% or 78%. Pull it up, guys. CBS News. They go, we don't know why. I know who. I know tons of people. Little kids have it now. It's everywhere.
Here's why the FDA is complicit in the poisoning of the food supply. 1. Ignoring health concerns. The FDA has been shown to be aware of legitimate health concerns raised by the public regarding certain substances in the food supply, yet has failed to take adequate action to address these issues.
The FDA's authority over the safety of baby lotion. First, can the FDA require a review of baby lotion for safety before it comes to market?
No.
Can the FDA require the manufacturer not to use a toxic ingredient, for example, formaldehyde, in its baby lotion?
No.
Is the manufacturer required to register with the FDA before selling its baby lotion?
No.
Once the baby lotion comes to market, can the FDA require safety information about the baby lotion?
No.
If the baby lotion has caused bad reactions in the babies, can the FDA require a recall?
No.
If the manufacturer is aware of the baby's bad reactions, would the manufacturer be required to report that to the FDA?
No.
Well, I think everybody's paying rapt attention here.
These foods are harming us. These chemicals don't belong in the food supply. We are being stripped of our health and our happiness. A generation's health is being lost in this country because of what the food companies are doing and what the government regulators refuse to do to protect us.
When today's high school students were born, finding a high blood pressure in a high school student was really unusual. It was a disease of middle-aged guys. Finding abnormal cholesterol in a high school student was really unusual. It was a middle-aged condition. Finding abnormal blood sugar was a middle-aged condition, unusual. A waist size over 40 inches was unusual. But you know what? Today, 2/3 of America's high school students already have at least one of those conditions, middle-aged conditions.
We've got to take control because no one out there is looking out for your interest or my interest or the interests of the public at large.
What the hell is the FDA for?
Oh, the FDA, come on. The FDA is out there to promote the interests of the companies that give it money.
Looks like the bosses are changing things again.
I wonder what we're calling things today.
One drug that is FDA approved has killed more Americans than the entire Vietnam War. One drug. Every year, 100,000 Americans are killed by FDA-approved pharmaceuticals, and that is a statistic from the Journal of the American Medical Association.
Who is in charge?
The corporations are in charge. That's who.
How do you fight that?
Through grassroots advocacy, through education, by having the courage to stand up and tell the truth and ask these tough questions like what you're asking right now. That's how you fight back.
2. Permitting known toxins. The FDA continues to permit certain substances, known to cause harm, to remain in the food supply. This negligence can be seen as a form of complicity in the poisoning of the population.
I moved from the US to Germany. I was shocked to find out that some of the foods I grew up with are banned here in Europe. Like some of our favorite sugary cereals that contain the flavor enhancer and preservative BHT. Restricted here because it potentially causes cancer. All those studies are inconclusive. Some citrus-flavored sodas are also not allowed here in the European Union because they contain brominated vegetable oil, a chemical that keeps the citrus flavor from separating and floating to the top. Eggs here in Europe come with chicken poop and feathers on them. Washed eggs, like the ones you find in the US, are illegal here because washing the egg destroys a natural layer of the egg that protects against bacteria. So that's why the eggs here, unlike in the US, don't have to be refrigerated.
There are more than 10,000 chemical additives in American foods. Yellow 5, yellow 6, red 40, blue 2, titanium dioxide, more titanium dioxide. All of these chemicals are banned in other countries. The FDA was created in 1906 to protect public health and to ensure the safety of foods and other consumer products.
These laws stipulate that the label must tell the truth about the product.
However, over the years, they faced criticism for poor resourcing, slow recalls, and insufficient pressure on the food industry. Today, 73% of the U.S. food supply is considered ultra-processed. Additives are commonly found in processed foods, some of which are linked to reproductive and behavioral problems, cancer, and obesity, all major issues here in the South. The European Union has about 96% less additives in their food. There have been small steps forward, like the recent ban of red dye number 3, which was linked to cancer in animals. But red 3 was banned in most European products over 30 years ago. One of the main reasons why these mystery chemicals keep showing up in our food is the FDA's GRAS policy, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. This was created in 1958 so that companies could waive FDA review for time-tested products like vinegar, baking soda, or spices. However, in 1997, the FDA loosened the protocol to save resources, and now companies can self-declare the safety of newer, less tested chemicals without agency oversight. So new substances have been added to our food that have never been independently tested for safety, and almost half of additives now fall under the GRAS category.
And when they created that, a lot of these chemicals didn't exist. And that designation was intended to apply to ingredients that most people know are okay. Basic things like chicken, water, salt. While the FDA usually has to approve substances intentionally added to food, that's not the case if it's designated GRAS. Once it's designated GRAS, that ingredient can bypass the FDA's pre-market review process, which allows all kinds of stuff to be put in our food that the FDA has never once determined is actually safe. The GRAS rule, finalized in 1997, created a voluntary notification system that lets manufacturers bypass federal regulators' review. Companies themselves can identify and use new GRAS ingredients, but are not required to share that information with the FDA. So that's the company saying, yeah, we said it's safe. We're the company that's going to sell that and make the money off of it. And we say, we recognize that it's safe. And the FDA said, oh, you recognize it's safe? I guess we will too. Back pat, handshake. That's how that works.
3. Corruption allegations. Multiple reports and whistleblower accounts have alleged corruption within the FDA, suggesting that the agency may be influenced by industry interests rather than public health concerns. This includes allegations of collusion with industry to approve harmful products, e.g., the approval of certain GMOs and pesticides. Reports of FDA officials accepting gifts and benefits from industry representatives. Claims of suppression of scientific evidence that contradicts industry interests.
As the president of Judicial Watch, can you comment on reports of records that you have received from the Obama administration FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, of communications and contracts with a human fetal tissue provider that seems to show the FDA was buying, quote, intact calvarium baby skulls, 18 to 24 weeks, for $515 per skull? What do you make of this apparent sale of fetal body parts to the FDA?
Well, it ought to cause both moral and legal outrage on the part of United States citizens and taxpayers, that their tax dollars are being used to purchase basically the dead bodies of unborn human beings. They divvy up their bodies, they sell their heads, they sell their livers, they sell other aspects of their body, and you see the price list.
Another interesting bit of information you uncovered, also stating here, documents, quote, documents previously uncovered in this lawsuit, according to your press release, that the federal government demanded the purchased fetal organs be, quote, fresh, never frozen. What do you make of that?
Well, if you want to, I don't know how any normal person could read that and not be horrified. They wanted the organs shipped on dry ice. This is awful stuff, and it highlights the humanity.
But it's actually happening.
Yeah, and it highlights the, you know, these are organs. This isn't, oh, a clump of cells. These are organs. These are baby skulls up to 24 weeks gestation. So these are, there's no doubt that any normal person would call these a human being. And indeed, their organs are being sold, chopped up and sold. And, you know, we have other documents in another lawsuit that we filed on behalf of the Center for Medical Progress that showed a massive operation in the University of Pittsburgh, again, funded with our tax dollars. Fauci's agency was involved in it as well, so Fauci should be asked about his agency support in addition to gain-of-function research, chopping up organs. It was a fetal organ chop shop.
The FDA allows big food and big pharma to directly bribe them. Why? Simple, because the FDA is big food and big pharma. This is the head of the FDA, Robert Califf. Nice looking man, but don't let his aw shucks appearance fool you. Forbes magazine writes, Califf's industry ties run deep. He worked closely with drug companies in the best way possible, convincing them to do large, expensive, and profitable clinical trials that help prove the effectiveness of major medicines from big pharma companies like Sanofi, Merck, and J&J. But not only that, he was also a paid consultant on the payroll for big pharma companies like Merck, J&J, GSK, AstraZeneca, and Eli Lilly. Califf's largest consulting payment was from J&J to the tune of $87,500. He was so corrupt that Joe Manchin, of all people, tried to filibuster his confirmation. So when experts like this one say that food dyes are deemed safe by the FDA, you got to know that they're safe because the FDA is paid to look the other way. In fact, the FDA has not evaluated the safety of food dyes for decades. It says right here, Red 40, for example, was last evaluated for health risks back in 1971. That's over 50 years ago. For those scientists out there, don't tell me that science hasn't evolved or learned anything in the last 50 years.
Did you know that 9 out of the last 10 FDA commissioners now sit on the board of directors for big pharmaceutical companies? The only one who didn't is this David Kessler fellow. He joined the ranks in academia before eventually settling into his current position as chair of the board of directors at the Centers for Science and Public Interest, a nonprofit. All the rest of them, all the other 9, went to work for big pharmaceutical companies. Scott Gottlieb went to work for Pfizer, sits on the board. Mark McClellan went to work for Johnson & Johnson, sits on the board. I don't know about you, but that's super sketch. It makes me question their credibility and what that whole system has going on. Now you know.
American food companies legally hide over 3,000 ingredients from you on every single label. While Europe bans red dye 40 for causing hyperactivity in children, we put it in everything from cereal to candy to medication. The FDA allows something called natural flavors, which can contain up to 100 different synthetic chemicals, preservatives, and solvents that companies don't have to disclose. Meanwhile, a Coca-Cola in Mexico uses real sugar, but the American version uses high fructose corn syrup because it's cheaper and more addictive. Even our bread contains isotacarbonamide, a chemical also used in yoga mats and shoe soles that's banned in most countries. The craziest part is food companies spend millions lobbying to keep these ingredients legal, while other countries protect their citizens. Your grocery store is basically a chemistry lab disguised as food.
Wrap your head around this for 1 second. So the FDA, which stands for the Food and Drug Administration, is literally incentivized to not only get you sick, but to keep you sick. Because understand, they're responsible for approving all of these foods that you see on the shelves, many of which cause disease, many of which are banned in other parts of the world. Understand that the same foods that you're eating today are going to determine the drugs that you have to take later in your life. And this is a huge reason why the average 50-year-old in America is taking at least 4 prescription pills. It's because they're eating shit like this. And that's exactly what the FDA wants. They want you to be a slave to their system. So take this video as your sign to start nourishing yourself with the highest quality, most nutritious, delicious, high vibrational foods, baby. Let's go.
4. Lack of transparency. The FDA has been criticized for lack of transparency in its decision-making processes, making it difficult for the public to understand how and why certain decisions were made. 5. Failure to test imported food. Despite known issues with food safety in certain countries, the FDA does not adequately test imported food for toxins, potentially allowing contaminated products into the U.S. food supply. 6. Misleading labeling and marketing. The FDA has been criticized for allowing misleading labeling and marketing claims on food products, which can lead consumers to make unhealthy choices.
Look, if something says FDA approved, that just means that it was paid for by Big Pharma. That does not mean it's safe.
Yeah.
.com. Okay.
There are new names. They're renaming food colors because you're avoiding it, and they don't want you to avoid it. They want you to buy their chemical-filled food. So the first column is the name of the colors that they have been, and the second column is what they're going to be called. Especially yellow number 5, which is tartrazine. Like, you might not have a clue what that is.
Wait, the FDA would lie to you, and they would allow people to be inaccurate by 20%? There's no way the FDA would allow that, right? Well, in reality, yes. The FDA allows nutrition labels, nutrition facts on the back of every single product to be off by up to 20%.
Let's take this protein bar, for example. 190 calories, 21 grams of carbs, 20 grams of protein, 7 grams of fat. So we all know carbs have 4 calories per 1 gram, as do proteins. 21 times 4 equals 84. 20 times 4 equals 80, which means the remaining calories will be coming from the fat. Fat has 9 calories per 1 gram. 9 times 7 equals 63. So if we add those up, 84 plus 80 plus 63, we'll see that this bar actually contains 227 calories.
7. Legal actions and investigations. Several legal actions and investigations have been launched against the FDA, alleging negligence and misconduct in relation to the food supply. These include lawsuits alleging the FDA's failure to properly regulate certain food additives and contaminants, congressional investigations into FDA practices and decisions, whistleblower lawsuits alleging retaliation for raising concerns about food safety. 8. Criminal negligence allegations. Some experts and advocacy groups have gone as far as to allege that the FDA's actions amount to criminal negligence, potentially leading to avoidable harm and even death among the public. 9. FDA's own reports. Internal FDA documents and reports have revealed the agency's knowledge of certain health risks associated with food additives and contaminants, yet they have failed to act upon this information in a timely or adequate manner.
The FDA has a position that food colorings like 40 are safe for kids' ingestion. Do both of you stand behind that?
We have not evaluated Red 40 in over a decade. Over a decade ago,
we have not.
At FDA, we have not evaluated the safety of Red 40 in over a decade.
Well, let me say this: Red 3 has been known to cause cancer in cosmetics, but we still allow it to be put in our food. I don't understand that. You know, if we know something's deadly for anybody that ingests it, how do we continue to just study that and not say, hey, enough's enough?
So Red 3 presents an interesting example for us. It is actually known to be cancer in laboratory animals, rats.
10. Conflict of interest. The FDA's practice of allowing industry representatives to participate in its decision-making processes has raised concerns about potential conflicts of interest, which could influence the agency's regulatory decisions.
In my opinion, this is why the FDA cannot be trusted. 9 out of the last 10 FDA commissioners have gone on to work in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's not just a one-way street. They come the opposite way as well. People, executives in the pharmaceutical industry go and work on and in the FDA. This is a huge conflict of interest. If you want to have objective analysis of the food and drugs that we are eating, you have to have people that don't have a financial interest in the outcome of the decisions that are being made by this government agency. And so we need to get the pharmaceutical agency out of the FDA. It's not just the people that are in the FDA, but the funding for the FDA also comes from the pharmaceutical industry. If this were going on in any other type of industry, especially if small businesses were to be involved, everybody would probably be in jail, and that just pisses me off. The FDA, in this case, needs to get their act together.
So where does half of the Food and Drug Administration's money come from? Does any of you know the answer? Class? All right, I'll tell you the answer. Half of it comes from pharmaceutical companies. So just understand what I'm telling you here. Half of the money that the Food and Drug Administration receives to operate its business comes from pharmaceutical companies who make and sell the drugs that get given to you.
Recently, the FDA has decided to remove some food dyes from the food supply that should have never been there in the first place. Wow, so stunning and brave. While the possible fruits of their actions to look somewhat appealing to the public is encouraging, these actions only scratch the surface of the extensive problem of harmful food additives. Here's a list of food additives that the FDA has missed and should prioritize for removal or stricter regulation to improve public health. 1. Artificial sweeteners. Aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose have been linked to various health issues such as headaches, seizures, and even cancer. The FDA should reevaluate their safety. 2. Potassium bromate. In bread and rolls, this additive has been shown to cause cancer in animals. Despite this, it's still approved for use in the US. 3. Propylparaben. In baked goods, candy, and beverages, this preservative can disrupt hormones and is linked to reproductive issues. It's already banned in some countries. 4. Artificial flavors. Many artificial flavors are derived from petrochemicals and have not been thoroughly studied for their long-term health effects. The FDA should scrutinize these further. 5. Phosphates. In processed meats, cheeses, and baked goods, high consumption of phosphates has been linked to heart disease, kidney issues, and accelerated aging. Their use should be restricted. 6. Carrageenan. In dairy products, ice cream, and infant formula, this thickener can cause inflammation, gut irritation, and even increase the risk of colon cancer in some individuals. 7. BHA and BHT. In cereals, snack foods, and potato chips, these preservatives are suspected of causing cancer and disrupting hormones, yet they remain approved for use. 8. GMO-related additives. The FDA hasn't adequately addressed the potential health impacts of additives derived from genetically modified organisms, such as high-fructose corn syrup. 9. Foods treated with ionizing radiation. The FDA allows certain foods to be treated with ionizing radiation to extend shelf life, but this process can create potentially harmful compounds. 10. Heavy metals, arsenic, lead, cadmium, in food. While not additives per se, heavy metals can be present in foods due to processing, packaging, or contamination. The FDA should set stricter limits and enforce them.
Just because the purity of it is why it took us almost 4 months just to get some.
Wow.
And that's including the FDA BS.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, all of those type of companies that want to ensure their products or take in products and do the hocus pocus crap to them and inject it with all types of fucking GMO stuff, all those companies are going away. Remember where you heard it first.